let's get to managing diversity. You talked a bit about the issues of managing the country and the agitations already. We have from the south is the Biafra agitations. We have the Niger Delta. Initially, it was challenging. How do you assess this government's management of diversity?
It's been very poor. We always see, thanks to, you must give it to him, thanks to the acting president, anytime he's on board, you see a whole lot of difference. If you remember, we had never been this divided the way we were in the last election. A lot of people didn't give Nigerian, a breathing space. Some even felt that Nigeria was going to collapse, but thank God we came out of it. And one expected the president to start on that note to reconcile. But rather, the president came to tell us that we shouldn't expect him to treat those that gave him 97% vote with those, same way with those that gave him 5%. And people were like, oh, you mean it's about the votes? And so, by implication, what that statement meant was, we don't care about those that didn't vote for us. We don't want to even convince you to vote for us in the next election. So, by extension, it wasn't about election. We don't care by your votes, And so, everybody now said, well, since we didn't vote for you and you don't want us, let's, remain in our own. And so that sharp division was created. And then the president's advisor didn't help matters too. Oh, if you complain, they say you are willing. You're willing because you lost an election. So even those that voted for them, that were complaining, that were genuinely concerned on the failures, they tagged everybody willers. And also that created a problem. Thirdly, you had some prisoners, some who were arrested on grounds of making inciting statements, others on corruption and insecurity. And the courts said, look, these offenses are bailable, allow them go on bail. The court had not discharged them, but granted them bail, allowed them freedom while they come to answer to their charges. The president came on national TV to say, no, why should I allow these people? All of this, and then we now saw the appointments when they started coming. People started counting for him. Intentionally, it was as if it was created, the government was created for a section of the country. Some other persons felt left out. And then these are people who talks about quota system, who talks about giving people a sense of belonging. And then some persons truly and genuinely felt, look, we don't belong here. And so with all of this, the agitations, became increased. But the vice president came, and some of these places that even the president didn't visit from his inauguration, even though he visited them, wore their attire during campaign, from inauguration, he never visited them till date. But the vice president, while acting, took the bold step, walked on the streets of these places, and we saw how tension, from the Niger Delta to the east, we saw how tension all came down. And that gave the people hope that, yes, we are recognized. All they were asking for was, look, give us a sense of belonging. But, the agitations would just end like that. With the incarceration of Nnamdi Kanu,
who is on
bail now, yeah. For me, if I were the president, I would have ignored Nnamdi Kanu. I'm saying this on international TV. I would have ignored him. Because the moment you incarcerate him, you make him popular. Even when the court granted him bail and you left him there, you made him popular. People will now feel there's something about this man. That's why the federal government is scared.
Well, how do you rate, in terms of 0 to 100%, how do you rate in security?
If security in terms of, it's bad. It's bad. In terms rating, I will rate, is it 1 to 10 or?
0 to 100%.
0 to 100, 30%.
Security.
Yes.
Which has been the trust in terms of what you've admitted that they've done well in Boko Haram.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. And I told you what we have gained in Boko Haram. We frittered away with a bigger ravaging problems. Because this was the way Boko Haram started. Some people were sympathetic because they felt, oh, they were fighting a religious cause. Until they turned against these same people, that was when it dawned on them. When this Fulani herdsmen crisis started, government was trying to twist governors to create a grazing rights in their states for them. Even some states like Benue State that had initially, including Edo State, that had initially accepted to create grazing reserves, now
they've rescinded the decision.
They've rescinded their decision and are given ultimatum to herdsmen to find alternative way of grazing. Benue had been a recurring issue. You know, even some states in the middle belt, the Kaduna crisis, the governors still cannot find a solution to it. Unlike when you know that Boko Haram was just, you know, the northeastern crisis. Now, some people have even suggested that maybe it is some of these Boko Haram people that are now, you know, ravaging, parading as Fulani herdsmen, you know, all over the country. Our borders are still the way they have been. So what are we doing? Everywhere you go in Lagos now, you know, you have Nigerians, Okada riders, everywhere. You know, during the last government, the ban on Okada riding in Lagos and the election came, they relaxed the rules. And now, some of those places, you still have Okadas everywhere. And the Nigerian police is still what it is. For you to write a petition, for your petition to be approved, there are processes that must, including EFCC. You send a petition to EFCC on a matter that demands urgent attention, I tell you, 2 months, that petition will be there. They'll tell you they're investigating. And nothing is done. And somebody tells you, don't come here, teach me my job. The same Nigerian police is even worse off. What is the average pay of the average policeman? What is their welfare package? Have we changed? Police still buy uniforms for themselves. Apart when we give police cars, we say, yes, we've done so much. But the psychology of the man that you're giving that brand new car, have you checked it? You know, these are ways you tackle insecurity and not from, because you have not, it has not happened to you, and so you just assume that everywhere is safe. We build houses and the fences and the gates are higher than the houses. And it's getting worse every day. People embraced this government because they felt it was going to be different. These are new people. These are people that be in opposition. They have been consistently pointing us in the right direction. And they came, all the things that they said they were going to do, all the brilliant ideas that they had, were completely jettisoned, and they started acting as if they were still in opposition.
Now let's look at the issue of policy. Policy is very important in terms of galvanizing the people, impacting the social economy. We've seen various initiatives, Empower. We've seen the ERGP, that's the Economic Larger Plan, in terms of poverty alleviation, galvanizing the economy, and boosting businesses.
First and foremost, for a responsive and responsible government, one would have expected that all of these policies would have been policies that you put in place as soon as you're coming on board, because you have spent time consistently wanting to govern, you know. So you know any policy you put in place now, there will be little or no achievement from it, because a lot of people, that policy, nobody will be concerned about those policies. It will be about politicking. And what is politicking here? It's about sharing money. It's about deceit. It's about make-believe. And that's why people had expected that if you had put those policies in place from 2015, gestation period would have been 2 years. By now, there would have been gains. And so people would be happy that, yes, those seeds that we planted in 2015, now by 2 years, was celebrating the gains. But they were not. There was none. Even to appoint ministers, the drivers of these policies, was a problem. And at the end of the day, when they were appointed, how to kickstart was another problem. And then, the budget processes, the very first budget was completely in shambles. It was either missing, or was padded, or was, you know, all sorts of stories. You know, and then we saw, oh, the infrastructure, rail will be built. We're going to take loan. Oh, the Chinese yuan.
There's a concession plan now for the rail.
Swap project. It's always been concession. Oh, the Chinese loan and the rest. And, you know, at the end of the day, all the employment that will be created, rather than employment being created, we saw people losing their jobs in droves daily. But because we don't have statistics, you know how many companies eased out quietly, you know, Nigerians into the labor market. We can no longer cope. Some folded up and left. Some relocated to Ghana. Some moved their headquarters, you know. So, you look at the 2 years, you say we have wasted 2 years.
Is that your
Yes,
assessment?
yes, yes.
2 years.
We wasted 2 years. We were busy, and then to crown it all, Mr. President was in and out of hospital, and then we're playing with policies of, oh, he's well, he's not well, he made a phone call, he didn't make a phone call, he will come today, he will come tomorrow. No, he's resting. No, he's fine. No, he's in the hospital. Some even wished him dead. Information management. You know, so when you look at all of that, take tourism, for example. It's a very brilliant, you know, area that the government can tap into and make so much money. By next a couple of weeks from now, Nigerians will be traveling. The hard-earned money, they will go on holiday. That's tourism for other countries. They go to buy. They spend money in hotels. They visit sites. What are we doing, as blessed as we are, to tap into that industry when we can't even guarantee power? In this studio now, I know you are running on generator. So we also need to ensure that correspondingly, we are actually creating the environment to ensure that this production of this made in Nigerian goods, you know, thrives. And then create a market. Let government be the first buyer. So that when you buy, you know, people will also be encouraged. By so doing, you can now begin to ban importation.
What's your final word to this government? It has 2 more years.
My final word to this government is there is still 2 years. Now, they need to gradually stop playing politics. If the president is not capable, let him take the back seat. Let those that are capable, you know, take the front seat. After all, it's the same mandate. It is still his name. Let those that are capable take the front seat and drive the process for the next 2 years so that at least, you know, we can see gains. Otherwise, if we continue with this policy of buck passing and blaming and trying to paint a picture of what is not, of gains that, you know, we all cannot see, we're going to come back here 2 years from now and you will be imagining gain, trying to woo people to vote for you when you know you are failed. And like Igbenedion, you might just say, well, I agree that I failed, but just give me another opportunity to repeat. And that will be very, very disastrous, be shameful, and loss of integrity.